Dawn breaks over the misty bamboo forests of Sichuan province, and through the gentle fog emerges a figure so iconic, so beloved, that it's become a symbol of peace across the entire world. Black ears twitch at the sound of morning birds, while massive paws delicately grasp a single bamboo stalk. This is the giant panda, a creature so captivating that just seeing one can make grown adults stop in their tracks and smile like children. Did you know that pandas spend up to 14 hours a day eating bamboo, yet they can only digest about 17% of what they consume? Or that despite weighing up to 330 pounds, they're surprisingly graceful climbers who can scale trees with the ease of a house cat. Tonight, we're settling in for the complete story of these gentle giants, from their ancient origins to their modern-day conservation success. Before we begin this cozy journey together, I'd love to know, what's your favorite animal? Let me know in the comments below. Now grab your softest blanket, find that perfect spot where you can truly relax, and let's wander together into the peaceful world of bamboo groves and gentle giants. Chapter 1: The Gentle Giants of Bamboo Grove. There's something almost magical about the first time you lay eyes on a giant panda. Perhaps it's those dark, soulful eyes that seem to hold ancient wisdom, or maybe it's the way they move through the world with such deliberate, unhurried grace. Whatever it is, pandas possess a quality that transcends the ordinary. They're living, breathing symbols of tranquility in our often chaotic world. The giant panda, known scientifically as Ailuropoda melanoleuca, which beautifully translates to black and white cat foot, stands as one of nature's most distinctive masterpieces. When you observe a panda, you're looking at a creature that perfectly embodies the concept of gentle strength. Adult males can weigh anywhere from 220 to 330 pounds, while females typically range from 155 to 220 pounds. Yet despite their substantial size, there's something undeniably cuddly and approachable about them. Their most famous feature, of course, is that striking black and white coat that looks as though nature herself sat down with a paintbrush and carefully designed each marking. The deep black ears, eye patches, legs, and shoulder band create a pattern so iconic that it's instantly recognizable across every culture on Earth. But this isn't just nature showing off. Each marking serves a purpose in the panda's mountain home. Those distinctive black eye patches aren't just for show. Scientists believe they help pandas recognize each other from a distance, like natural face paint that says, "I'm a panda, and you're a panda too." The black ears may help them hear better by absorbing heat and improving blood flow to their sensitive hearing apparatus. And that thick, woolly coat, it's perfectly designed for the cool, damp climate of their bamboo forest homes, with each hair growing so densely that water simply rolls off like morning dew on leaves. When you watch a panda's face, you'll notice something wonderfully expressive about their features. They have what scientists call pseudothumbs, an extra digit that works almost like a human thumb, allowing them to grasp bamboo stalks with surprising dexterity. Their round heads house powerful jaw muscles capable of crushing tough bamboo, yet they use this strength with remarkable gentleness. Perhaps most endearing of all are their movements. Pandas walk with a distinctive pigeon-toed gait that gives them an almost childlike waddle. When they sit, they often do so with a human-like posture, legs stretched out in front of them, creating scenes that seem lifted from a children's storybook. And when they're particularly content, you might catch them lying on their backs, paws in the air, looking for all the world like they're cloud-watching on a lazy afternoon. The panda's face itself tells a story of evolution's artistry. Their small, bright eyes are positioned forward like a predator's, yet they hold the gentle curiosity of a herbivore. Their ears are perfectly round and mobile, constantly twitching and turning to catch the sounds of their forest home. And that distinctive black nose, always twitching, can detect scents and pheromones that tell them everything they need to know about other pandas in their territory. What makes pandas truly special, though, goes beyond their physical attributes. There's an aura of calm that surrounds them, a sense that they've figured out something about life that the rest of us are still learning. They don't rush, they don't stress. They simply exist in their bamboo world with a patience and presence that feels almost meditative. Chapter 2: Ancient Whispers from Misty Mountains. To understand the giant panda, we must journey back through the mists of time, to an era when the world looked very different than it does today. The panda's story begins not millions of years ago, but relatively recently in evolutionary terms, a mere 8 to 9 million years ago, when their lineage first branched away from other bears in the mountains of what is now China. Picture ancient China, where vast forests stretched across landscapes that would one day become some of the world's most populated regions. In these primordial woodlands, the ancestors of our beloved pandas began their remarkable journey of specialization. While other bears were developing tastes for fish, berries, and meat, the early pandas were discovering something extraordinary: bamboo. The fossil record whispers secrets of pandas much larger than today's gentle giants. Ailuropoda baconi, an ancient ancestor, roamed these forests and was significantly bigger than modern pandas. Archaeological evidence suggests these early pandas had a more varied diet and were more adaptable to different environments. But over millions of years, something beautiful happened. They fell in love with bamboo, and this love affair shaped everything about them. The panda's evolutionary journey is one of increasing specialization, but also of incredible resilience. As China's climate shifted and changed over millennia, as ice ages came and went, and as forests expanded and contracted, pandas adapted by becoming even more specialized. They developed that distinctive pseudothumb. Their digestive system adapted to process bamboo more efficiently, and their entire lifestyle evolved around the rhythms of the bamboo forest. What's fascinating is that pandas chose perhaps the most challenging possible food source. Bamboo is notoriously difficult to digest and provides relatively little nutrition. Yet pandas not only survived on this diet, they thrived. This speaks to an incredible evolutionary patience, a willingness to take the difficult path and perfect it over countless generations. The mountains of central China became their sanctuary, and what a sanctuary it is. Imagine yourself standing in a Sichuan bamboo forest on a misty morning. The air is cool and damp, filled with the earthy scent of rich soil and growing things. Bamboo stalks stretch toward the sky like green cathedral columns, their leaves whispering secrets in the mountain breeze. The forest floor is soft with fallen leaves, and the constant gentle sound of bamboo creaking and swaying creates nature's own lullaby. These are the cloud forest's ecosystems that exist where warm, moist air rises up mountain slopes and condenses into perpetual mist. They're incredibly biodiverse environments, home to countless species found nowhere else on Earth. The pandas chose these forests not by accident, but because they represent one of the world's most stable and consistent environments. The elevation ranges where pandas live, typically between 4,000 and 11,000 feet above sea level, create perfect growing conditions for bamboo. The cool temperatures, consistent moisture, and rich soil produce bamboo forests so dense that sunlight barely reaches the ground. For a creature that prefers solitude and shade, it's paradise. Pandas have adapted to read their forest home like we read books. They know which bamboo species are sweetest at which times of year, which slopes provide the best shelter during storms, and which trees offer the perfect afternoon napping spots. Their territories often encompass several square miles, but they know every trail, every clearing, and every good climbing tree within their domain. The seasonal rhythms of the bamboo forest have become the panda's calendar. Spring brings tender new shoots, a delicacy that provides more nutrition than mature bamboo. Summer offers full, leafy growth perfect for long feeding sessions. Autumn presents the challenge of preparing for winter, when some bamboo species die back, and pandas must rely on their knowledge of which varieties remain green and edible. Winter in panda country is particularly magical. Snow dusts the bamboo leaves, muffling sounds and creating a hushed, sacred atmosphere. Pandas don't hibernate like many bear species. Instead, they remain active throughout the winter, their thick coats keeping them comfortable in temperatures that would challenge many other creatures. There's something profoundly moving about watching a panda peacefully munching bamboo in a snow-dusted forest, completely at home in their mountain sanctuary. Chapter 3: The Art of Bamboo Living. If you've ever watched a panda eat, you've witnessed one of nature's most meditative performances. There's a rhythm, almost like a slow dance, to how a panda approaches its daily sustenance. They wake without hurry, stretch those powerful limbs, and then begin what will occupy most of their waking hours: the gentle art of consuming bamboo. A panda's day revolves around eating, and eating revolves around bamboo. It sounds simple, but it's actually one of the most complex dietary relationships in the animal kingdom. Pandas must consume between 26 to 84 pounds of bamboo daily. Imagine carrying that much food to your table every single day. Yet they do this with a patience and mindfulness that's almost spiritual to observe. The process begins with selection. Pandas are incredibly discerning about their bamboo. They'll test stalks by smell, touch, and taste before committing to a meal. Like a sommelier choosing wine, they can distinguish between dozens of bamboo species and varieties, knowing instinctively which will provide the best nutrition and taste at any given time of year. Their sensitive noses can detect the subtle differences in sugar content, moisture levels, and even the presence of natural toxins that some bamboo species develop as defenses. Watch a panda eat, and you'll see those remarkable pseudothumbs at work. These extra digits, technically modified wrist bones, work in perfect coordination with their regular fingers to create a grip that's surprisingly human-like. They can hold multiple bamboo stalks at once, strip leaves with precision, and even manipulate the bamboo to access the tenderest portions. It's tool use without tools, evolution's perfect solution to the challenge of handling their preferred food. The actual eating process is mesmerizing. Pandas typically sit in a comfortable position, often with their backs against a tree or rock, and methodically work through their bamboo selection. They'll strip away the tough outer layers to access the soft interior, much like we might peel an artichoke to reach the heart. The sound of a panda eating is gentle and rhythmic. The soft crunch of bamboo, the whisper of leaves being stripped away, the occasional satisfied rumble of contentment. But here's where the panda's story becomes truly remarkable. They're essentially carnivores trying to live as vegetarians. Their digestive system is still fundamentally that of a bear, designed to process meat, fish, and other high-protein foods. Yet they've chosen to sustain themselves on bamboo, which is mostly cellulose and water with relatively little nutritional value. It's like trying to fuel a sports car with grass clippings, theoretically possible, but requiring tremendous ingenuity and adaptation. To make this improbable diet work, pandas have developed some fascinating digestive strategies. Their intestines are shorter than those of true herbivores, but longer than those of other bears. Their gut bacteria have adapted to help break down cellulose, though not as efficiently as animals like cows or sheep. Most remarkably, they've learned to eat almost constantly, spending up to 14 hours a day, feeding to compensate for bamboo's low nutritional density. Pandas also practice what scientists call selective feeding. During spring, when bamboo shoots first emerge from the ground, pandas focus almost exclusively on these tender, protein-rich delicacies. Spring shoots can contain up to 25% protein, compared to the 3–4% found in mature bamboo leaves. This seasonal feast helps pandas build up energy reserves for the rest of the year, when their diet will be far less nutritious. Their feeding patterns follow the bamboo's growth cycles with precision. Morning feeding sessions often focus on the sweetest bamboo varieties, when sugar content is highest after a cool night. Midday might bring a nap in dappled shade, followed by afternoon foraging for different bamboo species. Evening meals often consist of the bamboo equivalent of comfort food, familiar varieties that are easy to digest and process. Movement through the forest requires its own special skills. Despite their substantial size, pandas navigate their bamboo world with surprising grace. They follow ancient panda paths, trails worn smooth by generations of their kind that wind through the densest bamboo groves and up steep mountain slopes. These paths represent centuries of accumulated wisdom about the safest and most efficient routes through challenging terrain. Pandas are accomplished climbers, and watching them ascend a tree is like witnessing physics-defying magic. Those powerful claws, each up to 4 inches long, grip bark with impressive strength. Their body proportions, which might seem awkward on land, become perfect for climbing. They can sleep in trees, descend headfirst with complete confidence, and even hang from branches while reaching for particularly desirable bamboo. Their spatial memory is remarkable. Pandas maintain mental maps of their territories that would impress any navigator. They remember which bamboo groves will be ready for harvesting at different times of year, which trees provide the best sleeping spots, and which areas to avoid during different weather conditions. This intimate knowledge of their environment allows them to live efficiently in a landscape that might challenge other animals. Chapter 4: Seasons of Solitude and Spring. In the gentle world of giant pandas, solitude isn't loneliness. It's a chosen way of life that speaks to their deep connection with the rhythms of their mountain home. For most of the year, pandas live as peaceful hermits, each claiming a territory that provides everything they need for contentment. Abundant bamboo, fresh water, comfortable sleeping spots, and most importantly, space to exist without the complications that come with constant social interaction. A panda's territory tells the story of their personality and preferences. These ranges can span anywhere from 1 to 6 square miles, depending on the quality of the bamboo and the season. Pandas mark their territories not with aggression, but with a sophisticated system of scent communications that would impress any perfumer. They have scent glands under their tails and on their paws that produce complex chemical messages, and they'll carefully rub these scents on trees, rocks, and prominent bamboo stalks. These scent markings are like leaving detailed notes for other pandas. They communicate not just "I was here," but "I'm a healthy adult female. I passed through 3 days ago. I've been eating arrow bamboo, and I'm not currently interested in company." Pandas can read these chemical messages with remarkable precision, learning about their neighbors without ever meeting them face to face. The beauty of panda society lies in this respectful distance. When two pandas do encounter each other unexpectedly, they rarely fight. Instead, they engage in what can only be described as polite acknowledgement, perhaps a brief sniff, maybe a short vocalization that sounds almost like "good morning," and then they peacefully go their separate ways. It's as if they've evolved the perfect system for maintaining social awareness, while honoring everyone's need for personal space. But then comes spring, and everything changes. As winter fades and the bamboo forests come alive with new growth, something stirring and ancient awakens in pandas. The mounting warmth, the scent of new shoots, and the lengthening days trigger one of nature's most charming transformation stories. The solitary hermits begin to feel the pull of connection, and the panda world becomes filled with a gentle kind of romance. Female pandas come into estrus for just 2 to 3 days each year, a brief window that requires exquisite timing and communication. During this time, their scent markings become more frequent and more complex, sending out chemical invitations that can attract males from considerable distances. It's like sending out the most exclusive invitations to a party that happens only once a year. Male pandas, detecting these signals, undergo their own transformation. These normally placid creatures become surprisingly athletic, traveling miles through challenging terrain to respond to a female's call. They'll climb higher, walk farther, and show more energy than at any other time of year. Competition between males, while it exists, tends to be more about impressive displays than actual fighting. They might engage in wrestling matches that look more like playful tumbling than serious combat. The courtship process itself is remarkably tender. When an interested male locates a receptive female, he doesn't rush or demand attention. Instead, he begins what can only be described as a gentle wooing process. He might follow her at a respectful distance, occasionally making soft vocalizations, chirps, barks, and huffing sounds that form a surprisingly complex panda vocabulary. These vocalizations are fascinating in their variety and meaning. The soft chirp sounds often signal friendly interest. Huffing might indicate mild annoyance or stress. Barks can be warnings, but they can also be excitement. And then there are the sounds that researchers call bleating, gentle, almost musical calls that seem to express contentment and affection. During mating season, the forest fills with these gentle conversations as pandas communicate in their ancient language. If the female is receptive, and she maintains complete control over this decision, the pair might spend several hours or even days together. This represents one of the few times adult pandas willingly share space, and watching them interact reveals just how social and affectionate they can be when they choose. They might play together, share feeding spots, and engage in gentle mutual grooming. The mating process itself reflects the panda's overall approach to life. It's surprisingly gentle and unhurried. There's none of the aggression or dominance displays common in many other species. Instead, there's a kind of mutual cooperation and respect that seems to honor the significance of this brief but crucial time. After mating, the pairs separate peacefully. There's no dramatic departure or rejection. They simply return to their preferred solitary lives, each carrying forward their part in ensuring the continuation of their species. The female faces the remarkable challenge of pregnancy and motherhood entirely on her own, while the male returns to his bamboo-focused existence, perhaps not even aware when his offspring are eventually born. This seasonal cycle of solitude and connection creates a society that's both independent and interdependent. Each panda maintains their individual identity and territory, yet they're all connected through the invisible threads of scent communication, shared habitat, and the annual renewal of their species. It's a social system that many humans might envy maximum personal freedom, combined with meaningful connection when it truly matters. Chapter 5: Growing Up in Bamboo Shadows. Perhaps no chapter in the panda story is more touching than the arrival and development of cubs. After a gestation period that can vary dramatically from 95 to 160 days due to delayed implantation, nature's way of ensuring cubs are born at the optimal time, a panda mother faces one of the animal kingdom's most remarkable parenting challenges. When panda cubs are born, they are among the smallest babies relative to their mother's size in the entire mammal world. Picture something about the size of a stick of butter, tiny, pink, blind, and completely helpless. They weigh roughly 100 grams, which means the mother is literally 900 times larger than her newborn. It's as if a human woman gave birth to a baby the size of a grape. This dramatic size difference makes the early days of a panda cub's life both precarious and magical. Panda mothers, despite their generally gentle nature, transform into incredibly devoted and protective parents. The first few weeks are spent in almost constant contact with their cub. The mother cradles her baby against her warm body, hardly moving except to shift positions or grab nearby bamboo. She rarely leaves her cub for more than a few minutes, and when she does, it's only to take care of her most essential needs. The den where this early drama unfolds is typically a hollow tree, a cave, or a sheltered area among rocks and bamboo. The mother prepares this nursery with care, bringing in soft materials like grass and bamboo leaves to create a comfortable nest. The den becomes a sacred space, warm, protected, and peaceful, where one of nature's most vulnerable creatures can begin the journey toward becoming one of its most beloved. Watching a panda mother with her newborn cub is like observing the purest form of maternal devotion. She holds her baby with a gentleness that seems impossible given her size and strength. Those powerful paws that can crush bamboo become impossibly tender when cradling a cub. She grooms her baby constantly with her tongue, keeping it clean and stimulating its circulation and digestion. The first challenge comes with feeding. Panda milk is incredibly rich, much more concentrated than cow's milk, and the cub must nurse frequently to grow. The mother produces relatively small amounts of this precious milk, which means feeding sessions are frequent and crucial to the cub's survival. During these early weeks, the mother may lose significant weight as she pours all her energy into nourishing her baby. Around 6 to 8 weeks, something magical happens. The cub's eyes open for the first time. Imagine that moment. The tiny creature that has lived in a world of warmth, sound, and scent suddenly discovers the visual beauty of its bamboo world. Those first glimpses reveal the gentle face of its mother, the soft green light filtering through bamboo leaves, and the cozy den that has been its entire universe. The development of panda cubs follows a pattern that's both predictable and full of individual personality. By 3 months, the characteristic black and white markings become clearly defined, and the cub looks like a miniature version of its mother. This is when they begin to show their individual personalities. Some cubs are bold and adventurous, while others are cautious and contemplative. Around 4 to 6 months, cubs begin to venture outside the den for the first time. These early expeditions are tentative affairs, usually just a few steps beyond the den entrance, while mother watches protectively nearby. The cubs are naturally curious about everything: the texture of bamboo leaves, the sound of wind in the trees, the feeling of sunlight on their fur. Every experience is new and worth investigating with the thorough attention that will characterize their adult approach to life. Learning to eat bamboo is perhaps the most crucial skill a cub must master, and it's surprisingly complex. Cubs begin by mimicking their mothers, grabbing at bamboo stalks and trying to chew on them. At first, their comically ineffective bamboo pieces fall from their mouths. They struggle with coordination, and they often seem more interested in playing with bamboo than eating it. But gradually, through patient observation and practice, they develop the precise techniques that will sustain them for life. The pseudo-thumb development is particularly fascinating to observe. Cubs are born with these modified wrist bones, but learning to use them effectively takes months of practice. Watching a young cub try to manipulate bamboo with its pseudo-thumbs is like watching a human child learn to use chopsticks. There's initial fumbling, gradual improvement, and eventually the smooth coordination that will serve them throughout their lives. Communication between mother and cub involves a rich vocabulary of sounds that many people find surprisingly expressive. Cubs make soft squeaking sounds when they want attention, bleating calls when they're separated from mother, and contented rumbling sounds when nursing or being groomed. Mothers respond with gentle huffing sounds, reassuring vocalizations, and occasionally sharp warning barks if they perceive any potential threat. Play behavior in young pandas is delightfully entertaining and serves important developmental purposes. Cubs tumble, roll, climb, and explore with boundless enthusiasm. They'll spend hours playing with bamboo stalks, practicing their climbing skills on fallen logs, and engaging in gentle wrestling matches with their mothers. This play helps develop the coordination, strength, and problem-solving skills they'll need as adults. The bond between mother and cub during this extended childhood is profound and touching. Panda mothers are incredibly patient teachers, demonstrating bamboo selection techniques, showing cubs the safest climbing routes, and gradually introducing them to the full complexity of panda life. Cubs, in turn, are attentive students who watch their mothers every move and gradually develop confidence in their own abilities. As cubs approach their first birthday, they become increasingly independent while still maintaining close contact with their mothers. This gradual transition from complete dependence to self-sufficiency reflects the panda's overall approach to life: patient, gentle, and thoroughly considered. By 18 to 24 months, young pandas are ready to establish their own territories and begin their own journeys as solitary forest dwellers, carrying forward all the wisdom and skills their mothers have so patiently taught them. Chapter 6: When Humans First Wondered. The story of humans discovering pandas reads like a fairy tale, woven with scientific curiosity and cross-cultural wonder. For centuries, these gentle creatures lived in their mountain sanctuaries, known only to the local communities who shared their bamboo forest home. To the people of Sichuan, pandas weren't mysterious. They were simply part of the natural world, respected neighbors in the ancient forests. Local names for pandas reflect this long, familiar relationship. They called them bearcats or white bears, names that captured both their ursine nature and their distinctive coloring. In local folklore, pandas were often portrayed as peaceful spirits of the forest, creatures that brought good fortune to those who respected the natural world. These communities developed a relationship with pandas based on mutual respect and coexistence that would serve as a model for modern conservation efforts. The first Western encounter with a giant panda reads like something from an adventure novel. In 1869, French missionary and naturalist Armand David was exploring the remote mountains of Sichuan when local hunters showed him a remarkable pelt, black and white fur, unlike anything he had ever seen. David was immediately fascinated. Here was an animal that seemed to bridge the gap between bears and cats, with coloring so distinctive it looked almost mythical. David's excitement is palpable in his letters back to Europe. He described the panda as a very remarkable species and worked tirelessly to obtain specimens for scientific study. His efforts eventually led to the first panda skin and bones reaching the Natural History Museum in Paris, where they caused immediate sensation among European scientists. Here was an animal so unique that it challenged existing understanding of mammalian classification. The scientific community's reaction to the panda was one of genuine puzzlement and delight. Where did this creature fit in the tree of life? Its skull suggested it was a bear, but its features seemed almost cat-like. Its diet was herbivorous, yet its digestive system was clearly carnivorous in design. The panda presented a biological puzzle that would take decades to solve and would fundamentally change how scientists thought about evolution and adaptation. For nearly 70 years after David's discovery, pandas remained largely scientific curiosities known only through museum specimens and travelers' tales. The remote, mountainous regions where they lived were extremely difficult to access, and the political situation in China made scientific expeditions challenging. Pandas lived on in Western imagination as almost mythical creatures, real, but so rarely seen that they seemed to belong more to legend than to the natural world. Everything changed in 1936 when a remarkable woman named Ruth Harkness managed to accomplish what many had deemed impossible. She brought a living panda to the Western world. Harkness, whose husband had died while attempting to capture a panda, continued his mission with determination and cultural sensitivity that was unusual for her time. Working with local guides and respecting Chinese customs, she successfully located and obtained a panda cub she named Su Lin. The journey of Su Lin from the mountains of China to the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago captured the world's imagination. Here, finally, was a living panda that people could observe and appreciate. Su Lin became an international celebrity, drawing visitors from around the globe and inspiring a level of public fascination with pandas that continues to this day. Newsreels of Su Lin playing, eating, and simply existing introduced millions of people, to the charm and appeal that make pandas so beloved. The impact of Su Lin's arrival in the West cannot be overstated. Suddenly, pandas weren't just scientific specimens, they were charismatic, appealing animals with personalities and behaviors that captured hearts. People were enchanted by Su Lin's playful nature, his apparent curiosity about his human caretakers, and his endearingly clumsy movements. The panda's reputation as one of the world's most appealing animals was established almost overnight. Following Su Lin's success, several more pandas were brought to Western zoos during the late 1930s and 1940s. Each arrival was treated as a major news event, and pandas quickly became among the most popular zoo attractions anywhere they appeared. The public couldn't get enough of these gentle, appealing creatures that seemed to embody innocence and peace in an increasingly turbulent world. However, these early efforts to keep pandas in captivity revealed just how challenging their care would be. Pandas proved to be incredibly specialized animals with very specific dietary and environmental needs. Many of the early captive pandas didn't survive long, and those that did rarely reproduced successfully. It became clear that understanding and caring for pandas would require unprecedented cooperation between Western scientists and Chinese researchers who knew the animals in their natural habitat. The early scientific studies of captive pandas began to reveal the fascinating complexity of these creatures. Researchers discovered the pandas' unusual digestive system, their complex social behaviors, and their remarkably specialized dietary requirements. Each discovery only deepened the mystery and appeal of these remarkable animals. World War II and the subsequent changes in China temporarily halted the flow of pandas to the West, creating an even greater mystique around these rare creatures. For nearly 3 decades, pandas remained largely absent from Western zoos, existing primarily in scientific literature and popular imagination. This absence only intensified interest in pandas and set the stage for the remarkable diplomatic and conservation story that would unfold in the latter half of the 20th century. The foundation laid during these early encounters between humans and pandas established patterns that continue today. A combination of scientific fascination, public appeal, and international cooperation that makes pandas unique among endangered species. These first meetings between cultures, mediated by the gentle presence of pandas, foreshadowed the role these remarkable animals would play as ambassadors for conservation and international understanding. Chapter 7: Ambassadors of Peace and Cultural Treasures. In the realm of international diplomacy, few ambassadors have been as effective or as beloved as giant pandas. Their role as cultural bridges between China and the world represents one of the most unique and successful forms of soft diplomacy ever practiced. When we speak of panda diplomacy, we're describing a phenomenon that has brought nations together, fostered scientific cooperation, and created goodwill that transcends political boundaries. The modern era of panda diplomacy began in 1972, when President Richard Nixon made his historic visit to China. As a gesture of friendship and respect, the Chinese government presented 2 pandas, Ling Ling and Hsing, to the United States. Their arrival at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., created a sensation that went far beyond typical zoo attractions. These pandas became living symbols of the new relationship between 2 nations that had been isolated from each other for decades. The impact was immediate and profound. Millions of Americans who had never seen a panda except in pictures suddenly had the opportunity to observe these remarkable creatures in person. The pandas became a shared experience that brought together people of all ages and backgrounds. Children drew pictures of them, adults planned special trips to see them, and families made panda watching a regular activity. In a very real sense, Ling Ling and Hsing helped normalize the relationship between the American public and China. But panda diplomacy extended far beyond American borders. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, China gifted pandas to various countries as expressions of friendship and diplomatic cooperation. Pandas arrived in Japan, France, the United Kingdom, Spain, and other nations, each arrival marking significant diplomatic milestones. These gifts created a network of international goodwill centered around shared appreciation for these remarkable animals. As conservation concerns grew in the 1980s, the nature of panda diplomacy evolved. Rather than permanent gifts, China began implementing loan agreements that served both diplomatic and conservation purposes. Under these arrangements, pandas would be loaned to foreign zoos for specific periods, with the understanding that any cubs born would eventually be returned to China for breeding programs. This system created ongoing relationships rather than one-time exchanges, fostering long-term cooperation and commitment. The cultural significance of pandas in Chinese tradition runs much deeper than their modern diplomatic role. In Chinese culture, pandas embody qualities that are highly valued: peace, harmony, gentleness, and balance. The panda's black and white coloring is often interpreted as representing yin and yang, the fundamental complementary forces that Chinese philosophy sees as underlying all existence. To many Chinese people, pandas represent an ideal of living in harmony with nature and finding strength in gentleness. Ancient Chinese texts and artwork occasionally reference creatures that may have been pandas, though these references are often poetic rather than scientific in nature. Pandas were seen as symbols of bravery and peace, an unusual combination that reflected the Chinese understanding that true strength often comes from gentleness rather than aggression. This cultural perception helps explain why pandas became such effective diplomatic ambassadors. They embodied values that resonated across cultural boundaries. Folklore surrounding pandas often emphasizes their role as peaceful mediators in the natural world. Stories tell of pandas helping resolve conflicts between other forest animals, not through force, but through their calming presence and patient wisdom. Whether these tales reflect actual panda behavior or represent cultural projection, they demonstrate the deep respect and affection that pandas have inspired throughout Chinese history. The artistic representation of pandas in Chinese culture has evolved over centuries. Early depictions often emphasized their bear-like qualities, portraying them as symbols of strength and resilience. More recent artistic traditions have focused on their gentle, playful nature. Traditional Chinese paintings often show pandas in bamboo groves, creating scenes of perfect harmony between animal and environment that reflect ideal relationships between living beings and the natural world. The role of pandas in modern Chinese identity cannot be understated. As China opened to the world in the late 20th century, pandas became symbols of the nation itself, unique, appealing, and fundamentally peaceful. The success of panda conservation programs became a source of national pride, demonstrating China's commitment to environmental protection and its ability to achieve remarkable conservation successes. International panda programs have created unique forms of cultural exchange that go far beyond simple zoo exhibits. When pandas arrive in a new country, they bring with them teams of Chinese specialists who work alongside local experts to ensure proper care. These collaborations have led to knowledge sharing that benefits both pandas and broader conservation efforts. Veterinary techniques developed for pandas have been applied to other endangered species, and research conducted in international settings has contributed to our understanding of animal reproduction, nutrition, and behavior. The educational impact of pandas in international settings has been profound. Zoos housing pandas often become centers for conservation education, using the appeal of pandas to teach visitors about broader environmental issues. Children who visit pandas often leave with increased awareness of conservation challenges and greater appreciation for wildlife protection efforts. In this way, pandas serve as gateway species, inspiring broader environmental consciousness. Modern panda diplomacy has also fostered scientific collaboration that extends far beyond panda research. Chinese and international scientists working together on panda projects have developed partnerships that contribute to research on genetics, reproductive biology, nutrition, and conservation biology. These collaborations have produced scientific advances that benefit many species and have created lasting professional relationships between researchers from different cultures. The economic impact of panda diplomacy is also significant, though it's rarely discussed in purely financial terms. Zoos that house pandas often see substantial increases in attendance, which translates to greater support for conservation programs worldwide. The panda effect has helped fund research and conservation efforts for countless other species, making pandas inadvertent champions for global biodiversity. Perhaps most remarkably, pandas have maintained their diplomatic effectiveness across changing political climates. Even during periods of tension between nations, panda programs have often continued as islands of cooperation and goodwill. This speaks to something fundamental about pandas' appeal. They transcend political boundaries and speak to universal human values of care, protection, and appreciation for the natural world. Chapter 8: The Red Cousins and Extended Family. In the misty forests where giant pandas make their home, another remarkable creature shares the bamboo groves, a smaller, rust-colored cousin, whose story is intimately connected with our gentle giants. The red panda, scientifically known as Ailurus fulgens, carries the distinction of being the original panda, discovered and named nearly 50 years before its larger black and white relative became known to science. When French zoologist Frédéric Cuvier first described the red panda in 1825, he gave it the name panda, derived from the Nepali word ponia. This small, cat-sized creature with its striking reddish-brown fur, ringed tail, and masked face captivated early naturalists with its unique beauty and mysterious nature. When giant pandas were later discovered, they were initially called giant pandas specifically to distinguish them from these original pandas, though both species would eventually become known simply as pandas. The relationship between red pandas and giant pandas is one of convergent evolution, two unrelated species that developed similar solutions to the challenges of life in bamboo forests. While giant pandas are true bears, red pandas belong to their own unique family, Ailuridae, representing an ancient lineage that has no close living relatives. Despite their different evolutionary backgrounds, both species independently developed pseudothumbs, specialized digestive systems for processing bamboo, and similar behavioral patterns for surviving in their shared habitat. Red pandas bring their own magic to the bamboo forests. Imagine a creature the size of a house cat, but with the proportions of a small bear, covered in the most beautiful rust-red fur you've ever seen. Their tails are works of art, long, fluffy, and marked with alternating light and dark rings that they use for balance during their largely arboreal lifestyle. Their faces wear permanent masks of cream and russet that give them an almost mystical appearance, as if they're woodland spirits dressed for an eternal masquerade. Unlike their larger cousins, red pandas are primarily arboreal, spending most of their time in the trees. They've evolved into remarkable climbers with semi-retractable claws and flexible joints that allow them to descend trees headfirst, a skill shared with only a few other mammals. Watching a red panda navigate the canopy is like observing a master acrobat who makes the impossible look effortless. The behavioral similarities between red and giant pandas are fascinating examples of how environment shapes lifestyle. Both species are primarily solitary, both mark their territories with scent, and both have developed similar feeding strategies for processing bamboo. Red pandas also supplement their bamboo diet with fruits, insects, and occasionally birds' eggs, showing more dietary flexibility than their giant cousins. Red pandas have their own form of temperature regulation that's particularly charming. During cold weather, they curl up into tight balls with their fluffy tails wrapped around their faces like natural scarves. They can lower their metabolic rate and enter a state of semi-hibernation during the coldest months, allowing them to conserve energy when food is scarce. This adaptation helps them survive in their high-altitude environment where temperatures can drop well below freezing. The conservation story of red pandas parallels that of giant pandas in many ways, though with less international attention. Red pandas are actually more endangered than giant pandas, with fewer than 10,000 individuals remaining in the wild. Their populations are fragmented across Nepal, India, Bhutan, Myanmar, and southern China, making conservation efforts particularly challenging. What makes red pandas especially vulnerable is their specific habitat requirements. They need old-growth forests with a bamboo understory and a dense canopy that provides both food and protection from predators. As these forests are cleared for agriculture and development, red panda populations become increasingly isolated, leading to genetic problems and reduced breeding success. The relationship between red and giant pandas in their shared habitats is generally peaceful but limited. Red pandas occupy a different ecological niche, spending their days high in the trees, while giant pandas remain primarily terrestrial. This vertical separation allows both species to coexist without significant competition for resources, though they occasionally encounter each other at feeding sites or water sources. Research on red pandas has contributed significantly to our understanding of both species. Studies of red panda reproduction, genetics, and behavior have provided insights that benefit giant panda conservation efforts. The challenges faced by red pandas, from habitat fragmentation to climate change, mirror those facing giant pandas, making their conservation stories interconnected. Red pandas also serve as important indicators of ecosystem health. Because they require large areas of intact forest to survive, their presence indicates healthy bamboo forest ecosystems that benefit countless other species. Conservation efforts that protect red pandas inevitably protect entire forest communities, including giant pandas, when their ranges overlap. The cultural significance of red pandas varies across their range, but they're generally viewed with affection and respect. In some cultures, they're seen as good luck symbols, while in others, they're associated with gentleness and peace. Their unique appearance has made them popular in modern media, though they remain less well known than their giant cousins. Breeding programs for red pandas in zoos worldwide have become increasingly important for the species' survival. These programs face many of the same challenges as giant panda breeding efforts: specialized dietary requirements, complex social behaviors, and the need for genetic diversity. Success stories from red panda breeding programs have informed techniques used with giant pandas and other endangered species. The future of both panda species depends largely on habitat conservation and international cooperation. Protected areas that preserve bamboo forests benefit both red and giant pandas, along with the many other species that call these forests home. Climate change poses particular challenges, as warming temperatures are expected to shift the altitudinal ranges suitable for bamboo growth, potentially forcing both panda species to move to higher elevations. Conservation organizations working with both species emphasize the importance of corridor creation, protected pathways that allow animals to move between fragmented habitat patches. These corridors are essential for maintaining genetic diversity and allowing populations to adapt to changing environmental conditions. Chapter 9: From Crisis to Hope. The story of giant panda conservation represents one of the most remarkable turnaround tales in the history of wildlife protection. To understand the magnitude of this achievement, we must first journey back to the darkest chapter in panda history, a time when these beloved creatures teetered on the very edge of extinction, their future hanging by the most delicate of threads. By the 1980s, the situation for wild pandas had become truly desperate. Scientists estimated that fewer than 1,000 individuals remained in the wild, scattered across increasingly fragmented patches of bamboo forest. The statistics were heartbreaking. Habitat destruction had eliminated over half of the panda's historical range. Human development had created barriers between remaining populations, and periodic bamboo die-offs, natural events that pandas had weathered for millennia, were becoming survival crises due to the lack of alternative food sources. The challenges facing pandas seemed almost insurmountable. Bamboo forests were being cleared at alarming rates to make way for agriculture and development. Roads and railways cut through panda habitat, creating dangerous barriers that prevented animals from moving between feeding areas. Poaching, while never the primary threat to pandas, added another layer of pressure to already struggling populations. Perhaps most troubling of all was the realization that pandas faced a series of biological challenges that made recovery particularly difficult. Their extremely low reproductive rate meant that populations couldn't quickly bounce back from losses. Females only come into estrus once a year for 2 to 3 days, and even successful matings often didn't result in pregnancies. When cubs were born, mortality rates were high, and mothers could typically raise only one cub every 2 to 3 years. The bamboo die-offs that occurred every 15 to 120 years, depending on the species, presented another challenge. In the past, pandas could simply move to areas where other bamboo species were available. But with their habitat fragmented and reduced, pandas often found themselves trapped in areas where their primary food source had died, with no way to reach alternative feeding grounds. Early conservation efforts, while well-intentioned, often lacked the scientific knowledge and cultural understanding necessary for success. Initial attempts to establish protected areas sometimes failed to account for panda movement patterns or seasonal habitat needs. Early captive breeding programs struggled with everything from proper diet to understanding panda reproductive behavior. The turning point came with the development of a comprehensive, science-based approach to panda conservation that combined habitat protection, captive breeding, research, and international cooperation. The Chinese government, recognizing pandas as a national treasure, committed unprecedented resources to conservation efforts and opened doors for international collaboration that would prove crucial to success. The establishment of panda reserves represented a fundamental shift in conservation strategy. Rather than simply protecting small patches of forest, China began creating large, connected protected areas that encompassed entire watersheds and mountain ranges. These reserves were designed to protect not just pandas, but entire ecosystems, ensuring that the complex web of relationships that support bamboo forests would remain intact. The Hualong Nature Reserve, established in 1963 and expanded several times since, became a model for panda conservation worldwide. Covering over 2,000 square kilometers, Hualong protects crucial panda habitat while also serving as a center for research and breeding programs. The reserve's success demonstrated that large-scale conservation could work when it combined habitat protection with scientific research and community involvement. Captive breeding programs underwent revolutionary changes as scientists began to understand panda reproduction more thoroughly. The development of artificial insemination techniques specifically adapted for pandas dramatically improved breeding success rates. Researchers learned to carefully monitor female pandas for signs of estrus and developed techniques for collecting and preserving sperm from males. One of the most significant breakthroughs came with the understanding of delayed implantation in pandas. This phenomenon, where fertilized eggs don't immediately attach to the uterine wall, meant that pregnancy could last anywhere from 95 to 160 days, making it extremely difficult to predict when cubs would be born. Once scientists understood this process, they could provide proper care and support for pregnant females and be prepared for births. The China Conservation and Research Center for the Giant Panda, located in Hualong, became the world's leading institution for panda breeding and research. The center's scientists developed innovative techniques for everything from cub care to genetic management. They learned to hand-rear cubs when necessary, developed specialized milk formulas for orphan babies, and created protocols for gradually introducing captive-born pandas to natural behaviors. International cooperation played a crucial role in panda conservation success. Zoos around the world that housed pandas became partners in research efforts, contributing funding, expertise, and facilities for studies that would have been impossible to conduct with wild populations alone. These partnerships also helped maintain genetic diversity in captive populations by facilitating breeding loans between institutions. Technological advances revolutionized panda research and monitoring. Radio collars and GPS tracking allowed scientists to follow wild pandas and understand their movement patterns, territory sizes, and habitat preferences. Camera traps provided unprecedented insights into natural panda behavior, revealing social interactions and behaviors that had never been documented before. Veterinary care for pandas advanced dramatically as specialists developed expertise in panda medicine. The establishment of specialized medical facilities and the training of veterinarians in panda care meant that both captive and wild pandas could receive treatment for injuries and illnesses that would previously have been fatal. Community involvement became increasingly important as conservation programs recognized that local people were essential partners in panda protection. Programs that provided alternative livelihoods for communities living near panda habitat helped reduce pressure on forests while creating local advocates for conservation. Ecotourism programs brought economic benefits to communities while raising awareness about panda conservation. The development of genetic management techniques helped address one of the most serious long-term threats to panda survival: inbreeding depression. By carefully tracking the genealogies of all captive pandas and using genetic testing to guide breeding decisions, scientists ensured that captive populations maintained the genetic diversity necessary for long-term survival. Reintroduction programs, while still in their early stages, represent the ultimate goal of captive breeding efforts. The process of preparing captive-born pandas for life in the wild involves extensive training in natural behaviors, from foraging for bamboo to avoiding predators. Early attempts at reintroduction have provided valuable lessons about the challenges and requirements for successfully returning pandas to their natural habitat. By the early 2000s, these comprehensive conservation efforts began showing remarkable results. Panda populations stabilized and then began to increase. The 2014 census revealed approximately 1,864 wild pandas, and 17% increase from the previous count. This success led to the historic decision in 2016 to downlist giant pandas from endangered to vulnerable on the IUCN Red List, marking one of conservation's greatest success stories. Chapter 10: Sweet Dreams and Gentle Futures. As our journey through the world of giant pandas draws to a peaceful close, we find ourselves in a place of quiet hope and renewed wonder. The story we've shared tonight, from ancient bamboo forests to modern conservation triumphs, reminds us that even in our complex world, gentle persistence and patient dedication can achieve what once seemed impossible. Today's pandas live in a world vastly different from the one their ancestors knew. Yet they continue to embody the same peaceful wisdom that has characterized their species for millions of years. The approximately 1864 wild pandas now roam protected forests that represent one of conservation's greatest achievements. These numbers, while still modest, represent a victory won through decades of patient scientific work, international cooperation, and the unwavering commitment of countless individuals who believed that a world without pandas would be immeasurably poorer. The future stretching before these gentle giants holds both promise and continued challenges. Climate change will require adaptive management strategies as bamboo forests shift to higher elevations and different regions. Continued habitat connectivity will be essential as panda populations grow and young animals seek new territories. The lessons learned from panda conservation, the importance of ecosystem-wide protection, international cooperation, and community involvement, are now being applied to save other endangered species around the world. Perhaps most remarkably, pandas have taught us that conservation isn't just about saving individual species. It's about preserving the web of relationships that make life on Earth so beautifully complex. The bamboo forests that shelter pandas also protect watersheds, store carbon, and provide homes for countless other species. In saving pandas, we've saved entire ecosystems and all the quiet wonders they contain. The research stations and breeding centers that once echoed with the urgent concerns of species rescue now hum with the gentler rhythms of ongoing stewardship. Cubs born in captivity learn the ancient skills they'll need in the wild, while scientists continue to unlock the mysteries of panda reproduction, behavior, and ecology. Each birth is still a celebration, each successful integration into wild populations a triumph. But these events now occur against a backdrop of growing confidence rather than desperate hope. The pandas themselves remain wonderfully unchanged by their brush with extinction and subsequent recovery. They continue to approach life with the same unhurried grace, the same patient attention to the simple pleasures of bamboo and sunshine, the same gentle dignity that has made them beloved across cultures and continents. In their peaceful presence, we find a reminder that some of life's most important qualities, patience, gentleness, and contentment with simple pleasures, never go out of style. As we settle into the quiet hours of night, let the story of pandas remind us that hope persists even in our world's darkest chapters. Their journey from the edge of extinction back to stable populations speaks to the power of human compassion and determination when guided by wisdom and patience. In the gentle rustle of bamboo leaves and the soft sounds of pandas moving through their forest home, we hear an ancient song of resilience and renewal that continues to play in the mountains of China. The pandas are safe tonight, settled in their bamboo groves under stars that have watched over their kind for countless generations. Cubs sleep curled against their mothers' warm bodies, adults rest peacefully in their favorite trees, and the forest itself breathes with the quiet rhythm of life continuing as it should. In this peaceful scene, we find our own invitation to rest, to trust in the possibility of positive change, and to carry forward the gentle wisdom that pandas embody. That sometimes the greatest strength lies in the softest approach, and that patience, when combined with persistent care, can achieve miracles. Until we meet again in these quiet hours, may your dreams be filled with bamboo forests and gentle giants, and may you carry with you the peaceful certainty that love, patience, and dedicated care can indeed save what seems lost forever.